Welcome along to Willow Talk. Mark Howard and Brad Haddin with you. Hads, I'm in Hobart. We'll get to the reason for that shortly, but another big night of cricket. We'll get through it all this morning, all the news, all the previews, and we get our cult hero, Tim Pringle, to join us, which I'm looking forward to. Good morning to you, Bradley.
Morning, Howie. Yeah, I've been up nice and early. I've got my coffee. We've debriefed the last few games with my mates. We've debriefed the Australian captain. Who should it be? Should we let the band go? So over the coffee, we solved a lot of the problems I think we may have caused a lot, but I'm here to clear it all up with you.
Well, I've been up early studying, and I'll explain to you why shortly. Now, the late game last night, we'll start with that, because it was Sri Lanka 8 for 152. Nasanka, who we saw in Australia last summer do some wonderful things, he was the mainstay, 74 off 60. They fell in a bit of a heap because of a man called Kartik Meiyappan. Roll the tape.
Out. Caught in the deep. Meiyappan strikes. Oh, big shout for a caught behind. It's gone. Yes. And now Kartik Meiyappan is on a hat-trick. This match is turning and turning. Never been a hat-trick for the UAE in 2020 internationals. Yeah! Oh, yes, there is now. Dasan Shanaka, the captain of Sri Lanka, castled through the gate, and Kartik Meiyappan take a bow.
We're both smiling listening to that, Hads. Extraordinary. Rolled out 3 wrongers on the trot, and the one to get the Sri Lankan captain, who's a right-hander, through the gate. Well done to Kartik Meiyappan. And I was jumping around in the Qantas Club, to be fair, on the way down to Hobart. Outstanding effort. Outstanding effort by the man that was born in India, in Chennai.
Yeah, how he was all class. You see a lot of hat-tricks in 2020 cricket at the back end of the game when guys are trying to take advantage of the last overs. But this is when Sri Lanka were in control of the game. They looked like they were going to make a 180. They were 2 for 92. And Meiyappan come in and bowled 3 perfect wrong-uns. But the one to get the actual hat-trick was an absolute gem of a ball. Beat him on the inside. It looked like he had a perfect defence. Found that little gap. And what a moment it was for him. I tell you what, though.
Yeah.
There was an Aussie who was the first to get a hat-trick in 2020 cricket in the 2007 against Bangladesh. Can you remember?
Oh, gee, I didn't know we were doing a quiz. Watto?
No, it sort of looks like Watto a bit.
Nathan Bracken?
B. Lee.
B. Lee did he?
Yeah, B. Lee against Bangladesh. Just too quick for them. But, yeah, he was the first to get a hat-trick. But this one was a special one. Big moment, under pressure. I loved it.
Did you ever bowl? Have you ever taken a hat-trick?
No. I've taken a hat-trick in junior cricket, but that doesn't count. I've never bowled in the first pass game.
But junior cricket? What did you used to roll out?
It varied. It varied. I had small man syndrome. I don't know.
Still do, to be fair. Still do, to be fair.
Yeah. I used to like to find halfway down the wicket.
Oh, you bowled short, did you? An angry man.
But they didn't get up. They didn't get up. But I was an aggressive, slow, medium bowler. I went to leg spin later. But I tell you, actually, you'll laugh at this.
Come on.
I remember I went to my first ever rep trial. And everyone at that time thinks they can bowl fast. So they went around the room and asked who's the fast bowlers in the room. And I put my hand up, and they probably couldn't see me because I was so short. And they picked another 8 bowlers to go in different nets. And they said, who's an opening batter? And we all put our hand up, and they picked the other 8 to go and face them. And I thought, this is going to be hard to get picked. They're not even noticing me. And then they said, who can wicket keep? And no one put their hand up. So I said, how hard is it to catch a ball? So that's actually how my career started. I went to the rep trials as an aggressive midget bowler and ended up leaving the under-11s rep ACT as the wicketkeeper.
Well, Australia is ever thankful, ever thankful. Sri Lanka back on track. We don't need to spend too much time on that. They were far too good for the UAE in the end. The other game yesterday, the Netherlands by 5 wickets, 3 balls remaining in the end. Tim Pringle, a big part of it, who we're about to hear from. But I guess the big story out of that is that the Netherlands are now 2 from 2, and they have got 1 foot into qualifying for the next stage. So well done to the men in orange.
Yeah, they did an outstanding job, the Men in Orange. They took the game on. Tim Pringle, he got a wicket to start the game. He opened the bowl and he won the big moment at the end. But Namibia, to me, after an outstanding performance in the first game, they look like they played scared cricket. And in these tournaments, you've got to free yourself up. You've got to walk into the fire. You've got to take the game on and not wait for the game to dictate to you. And to me, that's what it looked like a bit with Namibia. They look like they're scared to take the game on. They're thinking, all we've got to do is win one more game, and we'll get to the next stage. But they forgot about the most important thing was the moment they're in right now. And just looking through the score, David Wise faced only 5 balls, and JJ Smith faced 3 balls. They're their 2 power hitters. They played 7 and 8.
What were they doing, Hads? I just kept saying, when are these blokes going to come in? And they didn't. They were 7 and 8. And as you say, they faced hardly a ball between them. It was a bizarre piece of strategy. I didn't get it.
Yeah, it looked like they overthought things a little bit. They had tried to left and right handers. They ran hard on big grounds. But when you're in that situation, this is where the great players, this is where you have your rascals in your team, the David Warners and the Maxwells. They love that big moment. They're never thinking about just getting through. It's about taking the game on. And if I could say anything to Namibia next game, they've got to take the game on. Go walk, as I said before, walk into the fire, win that big moment, and don't be scared to lose.
Okay, Tim Pringle, our cult hero, not too far away from joining us, Hads, which is really exciting. A couple of news stories out of yesterday. The first one, Pat Cummins anointed the one-day international captain. Now, we spoke about this a couple of days ago. We threw up a couple of names. Paddy Cummins gets the job. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a smart choice. David Warner wasn't considered. We've read that. His ban still stands, and there wasn't time to overturn those findings. So Paddy Cummins, of his choice, he's done a really good job in Test match. The only thing that will throw a curveball up is he doesn't play a lot of white ball cricket. Actually, he's missed more than 50% of the games. But on the flip side of that, what that will do, it'll allow us to start to develop some leaders. If a Mitch Marsh takes off in his white form, all of a sudden his name comes over to be vice captain and have some experience. It'll allow us to experiment with a few different players when Paddy has a break.
So do you expect, as a result, Paddy will play more one-day international cricket leading up to the World Cup, which is the gig we're in, the October World Cup in India next year, October and November? Do you expect him to play more, or do we need a really important announcement as who is the vice captain, because you would expect they're going to have to captain games throughout this next 1 year period?
No, I don't think so. I think he'll play a lot of the white ball leading up. As soon as the Test series finish now, you'll start your white ball preparation. And we've seen that over the last couple of months with the 2020. You go into cycles, and Paddy will fit perfectly going into the cycle. He'll play majority of the games leading in. They'll tinker a bit with their team, and we'll probably see other guys get the odd game to captain. But Paddy will be able to put his identity on the team. This is the standards we want to set. This is what we have in Test cricket. And there's probably 5 or 6 players that play all 3 forms of the game. So it'll be a smooth transaction. He's been really, really good tactically, actually.
Yeah.
Paddy Cummins, he presents really well to the media. He's got a great following inside the team. So it's a smart choice.
Oh, he's just a lovely fella. Like, you know, everyone talks about Paddy perfect. I'm sure he's not perfect, but every time you see him, he comes and says g'day, asks how the family is. He's just a beautiful, beautiful man. That's the best way I could think to describe it. And the other news story, George Bailey, the Australian selector, came out and made some comments about Steve Smith in the opening match. You can relay your understanding of those comments. I don't think there was any great surprises there, though, Hads, to be fair.
No great surprises. He basically said Steve Smith won't play the start of the tournament. He can play a role through the tournament, and I expect at some stage Steve Smith will play a role. He's a class player, but you can't knock Tim David's form. We're not talking about a guy that's he's okay in his form of the game. We're talking about a genuine match winner, someone who can turn a total of 160 where it'll be a close game, and then the last 4 overs he can get the game to 200 and take the game away from the opposition. So he's someone that had to be picked. He's been compared by the great, actually, Ricky Ponting to Andrew Simons, someone who can dictate a game the way Andrew does and dominate that back end. So his form we just couldn't leave out. So Steve will play a role, but I think it's a smart choice.
Devil's advocate, the only real concern around the cricketing fraternity is if Australia loses 3 in the power play, for instance, against a swinging white ball, maybe Bolt and the like, you don't have that Steve Smith style of player to work your way back into the game. So who could potentially play that role for Australia if they were to lose early wickets in the power play?
Yeah, I think Matthew Wade. I think his form over the last 12 months has actually been the difference in our 2020 results. I think he's been outstanding under pressure. He can play 2 different roles, Wade. He can be the aggressor and he's got some great power, and he can be the innovator, but he can also anchor an innings. So I think Matthew Wade could do that role. But also 2020's changed a bit as well. Howie, teams aren't looking for that anchor role. They're thinking, we're going to go in with 6 to 7 power hitters, and if the first 3 don't get it, we'll back that 1 or 2 get it at the back end as well. So I just see Australia playing a style of game that they're just going to keep taking the game on, and I don't mind it.
Love it, Hads. Up next, our cold hero, the man we've anointed the player of the World Cup so far, Hads, from the Netherlands, Tim Pringle. Well, Hads, our next guest, we've been speaking about this man for 3 days. He's our number 1 favourite cricketer in the World Cup. He's a cold hero. His team got the job done against the UAE. They've just had a win against Namibia. He's taken wickets. He's got runs. He's diving around the field. He is our number 1 man. And our first guest on the show, Timmy Pringle. Welcome, mate. It is great to see you. You're in Geelong at the moment. How are you going?
Cheers, Howard. Yeah, thanks for having me on the show. It's awesome to be here. Awesome stuff for the boys in Orange as well. So it's good.
We got so many questions for you about you and your background and your father and how you ended up playing cricket for the Dutch, which is fantastic. But in all seriousness, mate, 2 games, 2 wins, still need to keep rolling to make the next stage. But by gee, it's been a fantastic start by you and your country.
For sure, it's been good. I guess we expected in a way to go different too. And our prep as well has been awesome. So we just got to stay humble now, and then move on to Sri Lanka on Thursday. So
yeah, Timmy, I love the cliches there, and take it back to the team. What about your performance? You seem to love those big moments. You bowl on the power plays. You looked under control at the back end of the game with the bat, mate. It must be a good feeling.
Yeah, for sure. I guess that's why you did play the game. Is to be under the pump and do well under those times. But yeah, always nice to help the team, I guess. Cliche again. So yeah.
Well, you're talking about helping the team and playing as a team, but where about you and the individual, mate? As I said, you're our cold hero. You're the man we're following during the World Cup. Now you're playing for the Dutch, but your father, Chris, played cricket for New Zealand at a very, very high level. Someone told me a story today, Timmy, that you have to confirm or deny, that he was a first-class cricketer in New Zealand, and he went round the New Zealand camp in England asking for some one-day international tickets and somehow got part of the whole operation. That surely can't be true.
No, it's spot on, actually. Yeah, he was actually, I think he was playing some clubbies over in England, and then he was at a training or something like that, like having a bowl and whatnot, and then I think half the team went down and he was into it. So, I guess that's how it all kind of started for him. And he, into it really. So,
and your own cricket, I've been told we've got a close friend working with you, Ryan Campbell, at the moment. He said you're doing a fantastic job for the Netherlands, but there's situations with qualifying, and New Zealand have got an eye out for you as well because you're a man that delivers on the big stage, as we said. So is that something that could happen down the track?
I'm not too sure. I'm not 100% sure. Like now, for example, but I'm stoked playing for Holland at the moment. We'll see what happens like a bit down the line, I guess. So it's going good at the moment for the Dutch boys. So
mate,
I guess.
Things are going really well on the field, Timmy. You guys have started on fire in this tournament, and you look like you're nearly certainties to qualify for the next stage. But what I'm interested in is what happens now. What have you been up to off the field? Who's the annoying guys in the team? They tell me you've got Dan, Siri, Christian in your setup as well. So
yeah, he's floating about.
He'd be a great person to have around, one with his experience, but he knows everything, Dan Christian.
Yeah, no, 100%. He's great to be around as well, and he can swing a club or two as well. He's pretty handy on the golf course. So, he's awesome to having the group. So, yeah, it's all good.
Timmy, when we first Googled you, because I texted Haz and I said, you got to watch this bloke, Timmy Pringle. He's diving around the field. There was one today where you were batting and you dive straight through the stumps and you're getting wickets and you got the glasses and the hair. And the first thing, I don't know if you've ever Googled yourself in Australia, but it comes up Tim Pringle, wedding singer. And I was like, he's a multi-talented man, this man, Timmy Pringle.
I'm not sure about that.
That's obviously not you, but are we the only ones to have identified you as a cult figure? I noticed the fans getting around you in Geelong. I had some young blokes go from my local cricket club, Bowen Heads, and they came all back to training. All they was talking about is this man, Timmy Pringle.
Yeah, mate, to be honest, I'm not too sure where that has come from. I obviously played the other night against UAE. I was throwing myself around a little bit, and then, I'm not sure where it's come along. I just enjoy being out there for the Dutch boys and being on the park. So, I'm not really sure where that sort of come along, but, happy to be the cult figure, as it so be, I guess. So, Yeah.
We better let Timmy go shortly, Haz, but you might as well give him a real crispy one before we let him go to sleep, because he's got another couple of games coming up, so he's got to get his rest.
Mate, Timmy, all I want to know is, mate, you've come on Australian shores and you've got Ryan Campbell, mate. He's risen from the dead, mate. He's a great man. He's actually known as the first guy to ever bring the ramp shot into the game. So has he talked you through that yet, Cambo?
As we speak, no, he hasn't, but he's taught me through his Shield hundreds, every one at that. He spoke to me about his 100 at the G as well. No, but yeah.
Hey Timmy, we love your work, mate. It's great for you to jump on and join us, because in our first show we talked about we'd love to get the chance to speak to you. Hopefully we get to keep speaking to you as the Dutch just carve their way through the World Cup, mate. Go well and keep playing with the passion and style you have, because we're loving watching you play, mate. It's absolutely brilliant to see you and your country doing so well.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Plenty more to come on Willow Talk. Really enjoy the work of Timmy Pringle. We've got the previews coming up. We've been working through the big news stories of the day. Hadj, you're still here with me. We're just punching on.
Mate, we are. I tell you what, I enjoyed talking to Timmy. He loves the big moments. But I tell you what, though, you look different today. You look a bit on edge. You're not your bubbly self as you always are. What's going on, Howard?
Well, to be fair, Hads, I was meant to commentate the World Cup for the first time, Australia versus New Zealand, on Saturday night. Now, Australia versus New Zealand, I would know better than any two cricket teams in the world, but something happened in Hobart, and I got a call from the people organising it. I've never commentated a World Cup before, so I was debuting on Saturday night, which I was starting to get a bit edgy about, because there's some serious commentators. And then I got the call, something happened in Hobart to one of the commentators. He had to go home, so I'm down here. So I'm doing the double header this afternoon. So I've got Scotland versus Ireland, then the West Indies versus Zimbabwe, and backing up on Friday night. Mate, I've seen the rundown. There's pitch reports, there's interviews with captains, there's commentary stints. So I'm a little bit edgy, because some of these fellas I'm not completely across, to be fair, at this stage, Hads. But I did a lot of work last night. I'll be right to go when we get there. But yeah, a tricky World Cup debut, I think you call it.
You know what, Howie? I love it. It would have just been too easy just to roll in on Saturday night. You know both teams, sit in the spot you normally sit, put your bag down. This reminds me of my debut, actually, in Hobart. I remember getting called up. I was at the Blue Gum Hotel just after a grade game in Sydney, and Steve Bernard rung. And long story short, I get down there, and I remember standing at the front door, thinking, where do I put my bag? Because I've heard all these stories. If you put it in the wrong spot, imagine if I put it in Shane Warne's, or if I put it in Steve Wall's, or even worse, I put in Ricky Pontins in Hobart. I'm never playing again. Have you got those sort of nerves going, like, where do I sit? Who do I talk to? Who do I approach?
Well, my question for you is, how many of the playing 11 had you met before when you walked into that team?
Yeah, I'd only met the New South Welshman. And that was only briefly as well because they never played. They never played with us. But I tell you, I'll make it easier for you. I was petrified also. And I stood at the door looking in, thinking, who do I talk to? Where do I sit? I'm fascinated whether you had that same moment because you don't know anyone.
Well, there's 5 people I'm commentating with. I've met Ian Bishop before in the Caribbean. Carlos Brathwaite, never met. Pommy Mbangwa, never met. Preston Momsen, never met. Samuel Badgery, never met. So I'll meet these guys for the first time, I reckon, in the car. I'll tell you a story. This reminds me of the very first game I did in the CPL, in the Caribbean Premier League, and I flew Melbourne, Sydney, LA, New York, Florida, Panama, Guyana, right? It took me 39 hours, and I got to Guyana 3 hours before the first game. I walk into commentary. I'd never, ever met Darren Ganga before. I sit down for the first 5 overs. He called me Howard. He thought my name was Howard. So I hope I don't have a similar situation on the world stage tomorrow, Hattie. And I'm a little bit edgy about it.
Mate, you should. But this is what you remember about your debut. These are the moments you don't want just the plain sailing. It's no good for a sporty later in life, Howie, when you're down at your local in Geelong, you're 3 beers in, that everyone starts talking about debuts. But, mate, you'll be right. You'll nail it. Are you going to use nicknames straight away?
Well, I don't know. Like, all I think of is Carlos Brathwaite is remember the name. And Pommy's name is not Pommy, but I love me as a broadcaster. Do you think I should go Mr. Brathwaite, Mr. Mbanga, Mr. Badgery? How should I be rolling this out, do you think?
No, I reckon you walk in like you own it. Walking like you own it. Yeah, boys, I've got the pitch report covered. Yeah, I'll do the first stint, mate. I know this ground, mate. I follow the Hurricanes here. I know it inside out. Just go with me.
So just go full-on Captain Confident, you reckon?
100%. They won't know below the surface your legs are moving 1,000 miles an hour, but you've got to put that straight out there so they go, you know what, he is the captain of this commentary team.
I'm not the captain, mate. I'm the 13th substitute that's been called off the bench. All right, Hadji, thank you for the confidence booster. Up next, we're going to talk about the 2 games today that I'm heading off to. Mark Howard, Brad Haddin with you on Willow Talk. Just before we get to the games, Hads, I talk about the fact that I came down to Hobart yesterday afternoon on very late notice. So I jumped into the Uber with a bloke from Nepal. Loves his cricket, wants to start talking about cricket, and he told me that Nepal was rolled by the UAE in the semi-finals of the qualifiers, so that's why he didn't get here. And then he's living in Hobart, and I'm like, what do you think of Mount Wellington? And he said, mate, I'm from Kathmandu. That's not a mountain. That's a hill. He called it Wellington Hill, this bloke, because he's used to Mount Everest. So I hope he gets to the cricket tomorrow. He was very disappointed the Nepalese weren't in. Now, the games today, that as I said, I'm lucky enough to be at. Scotland take on Ireland. Ireland have struggled a little bit in the top order. Scotland's spinners were good. Leask and Watts, 5 for 27 between them, and obviously Munsey made the runs. But the thing that impressed us, I think, both about Scotland, Hads, was their fielding. They bowled length, they batted well, but they just didn't drop a catch, did they?
Fielding to me, Howie, is a real good attitude adjustment. You see exactly what the team is committed to all the standards the coach has set, and that's what we've seen in all the games so far. The team's going to be hungry to make a difference, and Scotland were just that the other night. Yes, you'll have good days with the ball and bat, but you can also contribute to the match in the field, and that's what we've seen. But in saying that, I think Ireland will get over Scotland.
So you're leading me by 1 in the tipping because I tipped the Namibians against Timmy Pringle. Why I tipped against Timmy Pringle, I do not know. So you're 1 in front. So you're going Ireland. Yeah, I think Ireland have got the class around the field. I'm with you on Ireland as well. Then the West Indies take on Zimbabwe. I love watching the Zimbabwe quicks in action. And the man, Raza, that you pointed out before the tournament, he just kept putting blokes over square leg for 6. So he's a danger man for the West Indies. The Windies dropped this. And it's major trouble stations now, Hadsy.
Yeah, it is. But the one thing I think in the West Indies' favour here is they've got some pace in their team. And Raza, what we're seeing when he came out to Australia, he got out hooking 3 times in a row. The Australian guys went after him with pace, and that's what the West Indies do have. So I see the West Indies bouncing back. Yes, Zimbabwe are a dangerous team to play. I like the brand of cricket they're trying to play and how they're walking into the fire and not standing back and taking the game on. But I think the West Indies pace will be the big difference in this game.
Yeah, surely Joseph will get the job done with the ball. So we're both tipping the same there. I'm tipping the West Indies well. All right, Hadsy, I got to go and do a little bit more research. Thanks to Timmy Pringle. Enjoy the cricket today, and the new bloke in the commentary team will be very low key. I'm not captain. I'm not going with your approach.
It'll be interesting to see how they present to you on the ground. What's the speech for you to boo? But go well, Howie.
Do you think I'll get a cap?
Well, you've got to get something. You've got to mark these occasions. These are the occasions that we all play for. These are the special moments. You can call 1,000 games, but you remember your first one. So I hope you get something just to remember this.
Good on you, Hadsy. Wish me luck. I'll speak to you tomorrow morning.
Thank you.